On tonight's Cover One Buffalo podcast, we are joined by NBC Sports Connor Rogers. But first, our guy's a handsome Jack.
Broadcasting live to Bills Mafia worldwide with Greg Tompsett and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL. Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. I'm your host tonight, Aaron Quinn, along with not Greg Tompsett tonight. We have Colin Ritchie, the producer Colin, making his first appearance here while Greg's out traveling, eating fancy steak dinners on somebody else's dime. How you doing, Colin?
Doing great, Aaron. Happy to continue being a part of the show and filling in for Greg today. No, Greg did not do something different with his hair. It's just a younger version of Greg, I guess, and producer Colin.
Yeah. You are younger than Greg. I want to make sure everybody points that out, that you're younger. You actually probably have more full hair. We can even say that. We can trash on Greg here a little bit tonight. He's out at dinner. You can't do anything about it. But we have a lot to talk about this week. But honestly, I just want to jump right into bringing our guest in. Everybody knows him. If you've been a fan of this show for any period of time, every time we have the Jets on, start of the season, it seems to be really early all the time here. But we bring our good friend, Connor Rogers. Connor, first of all, thanks for still making time for us little guys over here in the Buffalo Bills world.
You know I love this. It's a tradition at this point. How many Jets-Bills games have we previewed over the years now?
Yeah,
it's not making time. I look forward to it. I'm happy to be here.
We've done a lot, but man, I'll tell you, it's a lot different than it has been, right? You guys were kind of in a spot where I would say Miami Dolphins are right now, of like holding on to a GM, maybe not holding on to a coach, but just holding on to this idea that the roster was a lot closer than it was. And then you bring in a new regime and everything's changed. But there's like, after what you guys did on week one, and I know week one can be a liar, there's got to be a lot of optimism in the fan base that's been kind of kicked while they were down here the last few years.
Yeah, it's a weird one, right? Because you look at it and you go, how did they not win the game? They had 129 more rushing yards than the Steelers. I mean, every single number you look at, for the most part, it's perplexing that they didn't win.
Yeah.
And Chris Boswell making a kick that would have been good from 70, and it was actually good from 60. But you're right. There is something to, the offense played well, and the offense never, ever plays well. And the offense played well with Justin Fields and a first-time play caller and a really young offensive line with offensive tackles that are 21 and 22 years old. Now, they are first-round picks, so expectations should be high, but maybe not yet. I think it is a weird one where everybody's now looking at it and going, damn, I really wish the Jets won because they should have. But, wow, the Jets are maybe going to be entertaining this year, and they were the furthest thing from entertaining or interesting last year.
Yeah, watching that game back, going back, I said this when I watched it back and I don't know if this is true or this just me kind of like looking at the optics. Obviously, we saw the Bills struggle against the Ravens. We knew that's a bad matchup for the Buffalo Bills. And sort of in the same way you guys, I'm trying to figure out how we actually won that game. You're trying to figure out how you didn't win that game. I'm still trying to figure out how the Bills won that game because they were beat up in so many aspects. And in watching the Jets here and previewing this a little bit, and we won't jump into that side of the ball a little bit, but are they trying to build sort of a Ravens light with this run game, mobile QB, kind of have that dynamic offense where, hey, we're not going to beat you through the air, but if we can be efficient enough through the air, the ground game is going to terrorize you?
Without a doubt. It's a hybrid of, and I know it's funny to say because you have one team, the Eagles, that just won the Super Bowl decisively, and then you have one team, the Ravens, that are probably the most popular pick to win the Super Bowl this year. It's basically the Ravens, the Bills. Take your pick on the Packers now on the NFC side since they got Micah.
Sure.
I would say,
yeah.
So it's funny to say, the Jets are building an offense that's a hybrid of what the Eagles do with Jalen Hurts and what the Ravens do with Lamar Jackson, because it sets expectations that are ridiculous.
It's like Ravens light, Philly light.
Exactly,
right?
Like the diet version.
Yeah.
I mean, they're taking plays right out of the playbook. They ran a play against the Steelers that worked on 3rd and 1, where at a shotgun, they fake it to Braylon Allen, who's, Derrick Henry, like the poorest man's Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
To the right. And then Fields runs left with Braylon Allen as the lead blocker against Jalen Ramsey. Like, that is a Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry staple. So yeah, they absolutely want that. That variety, that balance is really important to them. They're a big believer in running the football. They're a big believer in the variety of ways you run the football through 3 running backs and the quarterback, which is really, really important. So yeah, I think that's what they're hoping to do, where they actually helped their quarterback for the first time.
Because he's a far reach from previous OCs there.
Yes, where it's like, hey, save us here, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
You can't move. And
not a Nate Hackett offense.
No, this is not a Nate Hackett offense. Yeah. It's a very balanced offense. And I think that, a lot of teams struggle to defend that because it's a lot to put on the plate in terms of how many guys you have to account for in terms of the run game. And the Steelers, I think their front, while it's really good, it might have been overrated coming into that game. I've seen takes. People are like, how did they do that against the Steelers front? I mean, Bembu had some moments against Watt and Cam Hayward, and those guys were like, wow. But I think that I'm very curious if the Jets can replicate it against Buffalo, because Buffalo's got to be a little motivated after how their front struggled against the Ravens.
Yeah, switching sides now to the other side of the trenches, I'm really interested to see how this Bills offensive line matches up against the Jets defensive line. Quinn Williams is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league, but the Jets were great against the run on Sunday. They didn't allow a run of more than 10 yards. How do you see this trenches matchup shaping out between a talented Bills offensive line and a talented Jets defensive line?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one here, Colin, because you have, number one, the additions they made at the end of summer were massive. They made 2 trades. They traded for Harrison Phillips, so they finally have a real nose tackle to play alongside Quinn Williams, which put Quinn in horrible spots over the years. Now you have Harrison Phillips, but Jawan Briggs is a rotational run defender that is really holding his own. These guys, they don't get moved off the line of scrimmage. They have really good head-up awareness. So I think the run defense at the first level was really, really stout. I mean, the weakest run defender on that front that plays a lot is Will McDonald. Will McDonald is also miles away their best pass rusher. So they run a rotation. The linebackers, too, are very good sideline to sideline. The thing with the Jets always was you had the chase speed of Sherwood and Quincy Williams in the middle of the field. So you just run right at them. And now the additions of Harrison Phillips and Jawan Briggs, I felt like the Steelers tried that quite a bit, and it just didn't really go anywhere. Now, the Bills' offensive line, in my opinion, is much better than what the Steelers trotted out there. Broderick Jones did not have an answer for Will McDonald in pass protection. Aaron Rodgers can't move. So there was multiple times where the pressure broke through and he just falls down, or he tries to move right and he falls down again. So I think this is a different test because I think the Jets will be fine defending the run in this game. That's not my concern. The question is, how do they handle the mobile quarterback in terms of the run game? And did the Bills throw a lot of designed Josh Allen runs at them to kind of keep them honest early in the game?
Yeah, and we know Brandon Stevens, that was a polarizing free agent signing by the Jets, and he got picked on in week 1. He was targeted 7 times, surrendered 5 catches for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. I know the Jets drafted Azareye'h Thomas, the guy that you were high on from Florida State.
Super high on him. I want him for Buffalo, man. I love that pick for you guys.
Yeah, I know a lot of Bills fans were looking at him as a potential first or early second round guy. Is that a guy? He played 0 snaps on Sunday. Do we see the Jets rotate him in more as early as week 2, or does it stay with Stevens? And if so, how do the Bills exploit that?
I think they give Stevens another week, even though he was a massive liability. And the problem with Stevens is, and this is what I said this when they signed him. They gave him $12 million a year. They gave him a huge contract, like big corner 2 money. And he's physical, he's big, but he does not find the football, and he has really poor awareness. And the Steelers knew that. They played against him a million times when he was on the Ravens. And the counter to it as well is that Sauce was so good on Sunday against DK. Sauce was excellent. That why even throw Sauce's way? Just pick on Stevens over and over again and pick on the safeties. And that's what the Steelers did. And the Jets had a lot of breakdowns. Stevens had at least one pass interference, could have had a second one. He had one play where he didn't get his head around and Calvin Austin caught a ball over him. I was really high on Azareye'h Thomas as well. And now it's looking like, it's funny, when they drafted him, it was like, I think they just loved the player so much they couldn't pass on him in the 3rd round, but they had no need for a corner.
It's a great value in the 3rd.
It's a value pick. And now there is a need, because I don't think Brandon Stevens' tenure here, I know it's 1 week, but it's not 1 week. When you don't like the player when they sign him, you know, you have your opinion there from previous years. But I don't think they'll pull the plug yet. They invested a lot of money into him. They do believe in Stevens. How do they exploit it? I mean, quite frankly, the Jets will play a lot of man coverage. Use motion to signal that they're in man coverage. Look where Stevens is and look for the one-on-one matchup and throw the ball on time, because he does not get his head around to play the ball. And Khalil Shakir is a bad matchup for him. I actually think a guy that he might – it's interesting because Keon is so good above the rim that you would think that's a struggle for him. But Stevens is big and physical, where at least I think he can run with Keon. But Shakir, I think it would be a massive mismatch problem for sure. And I think Palmer would be too. I think Palmer knows how to win down the field really well. So I think the Bills will move their receivers around in this game. And I think if Stevens shows any kind of signs of weaknesses early, they'll go after him over and over again.
A couple of things here before we jump onto my side of the ball. One, it's funny because everything you said Stevens isn't. I think Thomas is. Like in terms of a player and such a fit for what you want out of a corner there, cornerback too. So it makes sense that the fan base is probably going to get that clock ticking if it continues to go like this. But one thing I want to kind of ask you about, well, before I ask you this too, you brought up a great point, Connor, and I think our fan base needs to hear this too a little bit. The patience coaching staffs have to allow guys to go make mistakes. Can you kind of like talk about that for a second? Because you're dealing with that, and obviously you saw the Bills safety play, and that's been the talking point. And look, I'm not ever going to come out here and defend that play, but my message to Bills fans has been like, I think they're going to let this breathe and play out a little bit here early. And it could look even worse than it looked at times. But coaches kind of, if they believe in a guy and they've seen something, they'll let it kind of roast and play out a little bit in the development stage.
Right. It's the caliber of mistake, right? Because we saw the Jets release Xavier Gibson this week, who's been one of their punt returner for a couple of years now. His last great moment was against the Bills on the Rodgers torn Achilles night. Yeah. And he's had honestly a bad 2 years since that moment. He's made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of Jets fans were surprised that Gibson made the team this summer. And then what does he do? Well, the kick returner, Kene Nwanwu, gets hurt right in the beginning of the game. Gibson has to return kicks. He fumbles, and the Jets lost the game because he fumbled the kick return. Like there's no way around it.
Missing Codrington at all? No.
Codrington was a nice return
man. He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, right. So when you look at it in that front, them cutting Gibson shows that, okay, that's just unacceptable. But I think that burned out.
DB's different than like given
that's exactly right. You make a special teams mistake that loses you the game, like a kicker or a return man, you can get cut. A corner that you just gave $12 million to, it's just, set to be him and Michael Carter play different roles, but they're really the 2A and 2B corners on this team across from Sauce. You're not benching him after 1 week. Like it's ridiculous. So coaches will absolutely, with their starters in their defense that they just spent, not summer install, spring install as well. They have spent so much more. It's different and this isn't me talking down to the fans because I am one, right?
Yeah, same.
Fans sit down and watch the game and they're like, man, my 3 hours of watching that player was horrible. Coaches go from, I had to call to convince him to sign here. I had to go through everything in the spring. We had to go through a full training camp. You think 3 hours of one game and I'm going to move on from the guy? That's the difference between coaches and fans.
And a lot of times what we see isn't as bad as what the coaches see. Like the tape's never as bad as it was, never as good as it was, right? All those old sayings, and they know the why a lot of these plays look as bad as it does to us, and it's not often. But one more defensive question before I get over to this other side of the ball, because I am interested. You talked about man coverage. Do you think Glenn and company will switch up stuff against Josh Allen? Or are they just going to run out who they are and play a lot of man coverage and kind of play that against Josh Allen?
No, I think you're going to see a lot of different looks in this game. I think that I'm sure this is the type of game where he liked the slot corner blitz last year. I think you see some of that just to give Josh a different look or try to hit Josh. Like last week, Sauce traveled with DK. Yeah. I don't think this is a game where it's advantageous for Sauce to travel.
Who would it be?
Right. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you'd have Sauce travel with Keon. Okay. Well, then it goes back to my point that Shakir's an awful matchup for Stevens. I think Michael Carter would be fine. But once again, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So, I think they're going to flip defenders around like crazy. I think they're going to be trying to get back to their 5-man pressures where you don't know where the 5th guy is coming from.
Mhm.
And Josh Allen, the thing with him is he doesn't even need to diagnose it because sometimes he just breaks free anyway, even when he doesn't see it, which is the most frustrating part about playing the guy.
Yeah. You don't want your DB's backs turned in man when that happens either.
Yeah,
right?
so that's another part of it too, is like how much cover 1 can you really throw at Josh Allen? I think they'll tone it down as much as you'll see this week in terms of the whole season.
Yeah. All right. Now let's flip it over to this other side of the ball here. And I kind of want to start with a spot that is surprising to me. Obviously, everybody knew that the Jets are going to be a team that's built on the run, right? I think there's a game plan for how they want to win football games, and it makes sense. And I think you can win a number of them. And honestly, it kind of reminds me, we talked about Ravens light and all that. It reminds me of the early Sean McDermott years here in Buffalo when Tyrod Taylor was the quarterback, and you had some good receivers, but the room wasn't great. But this wide receiver room is so Garrett Wilson heavy. Is this going to be like something? Are they looking? Is this going to be a trade conversation? Like if Justin Fields looks pretty good, which he did this past weekend, and he continues to look good and efficient, like you got to go get somebody else for him, right?
I agree. And it already cost them, in my opinion, week 1. I was breaking down a play on the All 22 where, they made all the mistakes already to give away the game, but they still had the ball with about 50 seconds left to get into field goal range. And there's one play where the Steelers rush 6, which is like, wow, you're in and credit to them. The Steelers,
if you're going to bring it, bring it.
If you're going to bring it. Membu kills TJ Watt. I mean, TJ Watt's on the ground complaining. I don't even know about what. The running back, which I think was Brees, but it could have been Isaiah Davis, picks up one of the pressures, but then eventually the pressure gets there. Yeah. Fields gets out of it like he usually does. And all a non-Garrett receiver needed to do was win when the play broke down. And I forget which receiver it was out of Josh Reynolds. I think it was Josh Reynolds, maybe Tyler Johnson, working back to the ball against Jalen Ramsey. Fields throws it, and the comeback is so weak that Ramsey breaks it up. But it would have been like a 20-yard play, and the next one dump off in there in field goal range. And once again, like football, there's so many what ifs. I'm not saying that's why they lost. But that was, to me, I said on the tape breakdown, like, this is what happens when you screw around and don't get a number 2 receiver. Like, the game's on the line. Somebody's got to get open. The protection and the quarterback did everything they possibly can. And Garrett Wilson is only one man. He had an amazing game, but they're going to sell out against him eventually. You need number 2 receiver. And they're trotting out, truly, guys, 3 number 4 receivers as the number 2. Like,
seems that way.
That's the point. Josh Reynolds, Tyler Johnson, and you'll see a couple snaps of Arian Smith. And I agree. I think it's going to limit the ceiling of the offense drastically in a couple weeks.
I agree. And like, actually was a big fan in the draft of Jeremy Ruckert, but he's not super dynamic in some way that it's not like you have what we want Dalton Kincaid to be at tight end. That's that type of weapon either. And so I think it's just limiting the passing game and limiting sort of what could be a really big 3-headed monster offense going forward. Because in the passing game, if I'm a DC, if I can just take Garrett Wilson or like people used to do with LeBron, like, okay, let him get his 6 catches, 90 yards, and we're going to take away everything else.
Right.
That you kind of can contain them to a box. But you mentioned on that play, the right tackle, Armand Mibu. Talk about him. I mean, it looked really good on the film. Just turning it on, taking a look. The place that I always look to exploit the Jets over the last 5 years is just attack this offensive line. Get super aggressive. It's vulnerable, especially with a Rodgers sitting back there. Things are way different on film. And I almost want the Bills to kind of, I know fans are going to want to hear this, but kind of like sit in a shell defense and force Justin Fields to pick us apart and not really test these guys. Because I think the offensive line's good, and I think they're really good in the run game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that would be the right way to play them right now is don't give him those shots or those plays out of structure where he hurts you. The line, and keep in mind, they lose their best offensive lineman a week before the season in Elijah Vera Tucker, who's supposed to be the calming presence for Membu at right guard.
His career's killing me.
Yeah,
I love him as a player, man.
Great player, great dude, team captain, and it's just, it's just awful injury luck. There's no way around it. Man. I mean, he had an amazing summer, and then he tears his triceps in practice. It's like, how does this happen? So Membu goes into this game. Tippmann gets slotted into right guard, who's there technically center. Josh Myers is starting at center. And Membu was just killing people in the run game, which is his ability to sustain blocks in the run game is something that he needs to work on, and he found it in that game. But the one-on-one reps against TJ Watt is what stood out to me. Where why he's so impressive is, number one, he's kind of built like a guard. He's about 6'4". He's got 33.5-inch arms. He's got this giant, like, girthy waist and ass and legs. He's built like a guard, built to take speed to power. And then what he's so good at, though, when he stalls speed to power, is when pass rushers counter with him, he can really swivel his body and move with lower half explosiveness. So the dude just turned 21. I think he's going to take his lumps this year. Like, he's going to lose at times. It's going to happen. But right tackle has been a borderline disaster for the Jets for a long time. And they finally said, screw this. Let's just get what we think is going to really be a huge upside play here. And he had a hell of an NFL debut. And they actually like running behind the left side, though. They like Membu as the backside blocker because of his athleticism. And then they like running behind Fashanu and John Simpson on the left side. Brees was carving the Steelers up behind that left side. Tippmann was climbing to the second level. I'm very curious how they attack the Bills defense in terms of if they kind of stay not predictable, but if they go like, hey, we're going to keep running left. I'm curious if they kind of change things up a little bit this week. Something too they would do is they would actually leave Watt unblocked because he's so aggressive that he would kind of just run past the mesh point. Like, he would run past like the handoff and everything. And
you could do that to Ed Oliver a little bit.
I was wondering, I was like, I'm trying to think I think the Bills are a little bit more responsible than that.
They get pretty aggressive, like downhill on the defensive line. And right now, if I was the offensive coordinator, I would attack these linebackers as much as possible. Almost let Oliver through and go. Milano looked slow. Bernard looked a little slow. And I would attack them until they prove that they aren't right now. Because that was a big problem, in my opinion, in that game. Everyone's picking on the safeties, but a safety trying to tackle Derrick Henry at full speed in the second level, like, somebody's got to do their job before that happens.
I only watched the game. I haven't watched the tape of the defense yet back. But was Milano as bad as it looked on? It
wasn't
tape?
Great.
Is he just not like back to full? This is somebody that kills the Jets every time they play him.
He looked fantastic this summer. Like, I saw him at camp. He looked really good. The reports you saw, Colin, probably signaled the same. So I was shocked.
Yeah, I mean, coming back from his injury, he started off slow, but really started to round into form through the last couple of weeks of the regular season. And once we got to the playoffs against Denver and Baltimore and Kansas City, he looked as close to all-pro Matt Milano as we've seen since that breakout season, but just a slow start for him on Sunday against the Ravens.
But even the summer looked good. So, I don't know. And Bernard had looked fine. Eric Turner even posted, like, we don't have any information, but he's like, I almost wonder if there's like some injury or something from the offseason that was lingering a little bit. But I would attack those linebackers until they prove they don't look the way they did on Sunday.
They're gonna try. They're gonna try to force them to be honest about Fields tucking the ball in the zone read and running. They're going to try to get Brees at the second level. I think the run game of Braylon Allen is insanely predictable. I don't think that'll do anything personally. Every time Braylon Allen's out there, Braylon Allen's just getting the ball north and south. So
I think we can do more.
I think so too.
But
I would like to see them try to actually get him off tackle just once and see what happens. But
I think he's got more game.
Easier said than done.
Sure. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Brees Hall. Bills fans know very well who Brees Hall is. Even in the years where things were dysfunctional, Brees Hall was never. So I don't want to spend a lot of time. But what we don't know is Justin Fields, right? This is the big unknown in this game. And I won't lie. My brother's a big Bears fan, so I follow Justin Fields pretty closely. I'm a Michigan fan, so I hate it on him all through the college years. But I am always intrigued by Justin Fields. I think he checks all the boxes for me, that if you're drafting a QB, there's a few things nowadays that I need checked off, and you got to be able to make plays, extend plays. You got to be able to throw the ball at every inch of grass on the field. And then like all the other stuff we can develop and coach up and get you. But if you don't have those like Anthony Richardson traits, like I don't even want you in today's NFL. And so Fields has had that, but I think Chicago was a disaster just internally from top to bottom, and they've whiffed on a number of QBs. So I can't blame Fields for the disaster there. Steelers are kind of just in purgatory, and I don't think he really ever got a full fair shot. Just like it seems like New York right now is hanging on to Russell Wilson for some reason. I felt like that happened even last year. So we don't know the last 2 years really who Justin Fields has become. And I think that you saw that what I've been kind of calling this like Tyrod Taylor, where this can be an efficient quarterback thing. It can kill you on the ground. Is if he can manage a game and learn how to manage a game and not be the reason a team loses, this could be one of those teams that kind of sneaks around and hangs in with a lot of teams. Maybe people think they shouldn't.
I think that was the thought process when they signed him and when they wanted him that badly, because the Steelers wanted him back and he chose to come to New York. One of the reasons was I think he felt wanted and that they were going to build an offense around him and commit to him. And I think he hasn't really had that throughout much of his NFL career, which is not to make excuses for him because he's had his own shortcomings. And you'll see some of those shortcomings on Sunday where like the natural drop back pass game to him sometimes is still like it's clunky, right? Like even when he throws like an out to Garrett Wilson, sometimes it felt like he was loading up a little bit. But man, you watch what he can do. And when you lean on what he can do, it's like, okay, the scrambling, the design run game,
some explosives,
and then the ability to throw the ball down the field. I mean, they ran the Yankee concept where the single high safety, for whatever reason, picked up the non-Garrett Wilson receiver. Garrett smoked Darius Slay, who has no legs left. And
not for Garrett Wilson. Yeah.
Justin Fields threw a perfect deep ball. And that's the kind of stuff where you look at it and go, okay, the arm strength and arm.
He's always had that, right?
He's always had it. So I go back to something earlier you said, like, do you sit in a shell and force him to actually just quarterback paper cut you? I want to see if he could do that because I think it's something that's been wildly inconsistent throughout his career. And if teams challenge him that way because of what he just did to the Steelers it was almost run the ball, 3-point shot. That was the plan against us, and it worked.
It's not a terrible plan in today's NFL.
They didn't punt in the first half. Yeah. They were killing the Steelers defense. I don't think you're going to get that luxury against a lot of teams, especially a division opponent that knows you that well or will get to know you that well because this Jets team's a little different right now. So yeah, I'm fascinated by this because
I'm interested to see where it goes.
They would love nothing more than to not force a quarterback pick in next year's draft. Fields has another year left on his deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's an interesting storyline. Definitely something I'm looking forward to going into this one. You know what's coming next, dude. We're going to put you on the spot here. You got to make a prediction for how you think this one's going to go. I'm sure you're going to make multiple predictions this week anyway, but I hope we're your first. We got to be your first one, right?
Yeah, you are. I don't think I did even a prediction on my own Jets podcast, Badlands, last night, which is weird. We had so much to talk about that we didn't even make a prediction for the game. I'm sure I'll do one on pregame though. I think the Bills win this game. And I actually, over the last 3 years with you guys, I feel like I've picked the Jets when they're home and the Bills when they're home all 3 years. And that's worked out pretty well for me. Obviously, the Jets lost last year, but they won the 2 previous games against the Bills at home. And then the Jets never play well in Buffalo ever. But this one, I just think it's early for Glenn and company. And I think that the defense is going to really struggle limiting the explosive play against Allen. There was a lot of miscommunications on the back end. The Jets safety pairing is not good and did not look ready. I think that the Jets offense will actually be fine in this game. I think if I had to guess, and I know this is right around where the spread is, it might be 6.5 now.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I would say 28-21, 28-20, that kind of game. Maybe like a 31-20. I think that the Bills are going to win. I don't think it'll be by the difference of a field goal. I think the Jets offense will do enough throughout the first 3 quarters or throughout the entire game to keep it interesting and be like, oh, the Jets are actually scoring a little bit. But ironically, what the team is supposed to be built on, I don't have a lot of confidence in this game in the Jets defense.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I'm in a similar spot. I'm going to save mine here for later after we do a couple segments, but I think you're spot on here. But I am interested here, Connor, this year. I think maybe the media as a whole had the AFC a little wonky. And I'm trying not to buy too much into the week 1 stuff. Right. I know we all did that with the Saints early last year.
Oh man, that was fool's gold at its finest.
Yeah. But I do think, if the Jets, if they can get this Fields thing to click a little bit, I think that they could be that team that everybody thinks the Patriots are right now. Cause the Patriots didn't.
I mean, it looked terrible.
It looked terrible. It looked toothless on the defensive side.
That's a really good way to put it. I was very low on them against expectations going into the season. So I'm biased when I say they look terrible. Like
bad, dude.
Their win total was 8.5. And I saw every member of their media picking them to win double-digit games. And I'm like, do you realize they won 4 games last year? Like, if they win 8 this year, that should be a really nice step forward. But we'll see how that plays out. Miami's
They were favored
a
in
mess.
11. They were favored in 11 games this year. The Patriots.
That's ridiculous.
That's
I mean, it's
ridiculous,
utterly
yeah.
ridiculous. So it's assuming a giant step from the quarterback, but their secondary without Christian Gonzalez is horrible.
And Miami looks like it's just about to.
Miami
totally
looks like
implode.
everybody has already somehow quit.
Yeah.
So I think what it comes down to,
the Jets could sneaky be that.
the Jets losing that week one, giving away the week one game, could be the difference between like, I picked them to win 7.
In the hunt. They'll be in the hunt, I think.
In the hunt. I picked them to win 7 games this year. I feel like losing that first one might be the difference of them not winning 8. So, but annoying. There's annoying 8-win teams, annoying 7-win teams.
The Bills were that for 20 years.
Right.
That was
Right.
shtick.
Yes. Yeah. Like the Jets, the style of football they play, they are going to wear some teams out, even in losses. And I actually like enjoy that more than what we've watched over the last 10 years.
Dude, I was just saying it. I had a Little League game tonight. We were talking about, I had season tickets during the Tyrod years. And I was talking about, that was fun football. Like,
the crowds were wild. I remember the crowds then. They were wild.
Yeah, and you only won 8-9 games, but there's some hope. And I do feel like your fan base right now has a glimmer of hope where you probably haven't the last handful of years. So as much as I hate the Jets, I like that for you guys.
Yeah, well, it actually makes our pathetic division a little more interesting, right? Like this is the least fun division to talk about this summer, and I guess that was more for us because I was like, the Bills are the biggest runaway, and then the only people that thought it was interesting was like, I think New England's going to be better than everyone else does, correct. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, we'll see.
And
like,
some people still holding out hope that like Miami was going to go back to dropping.
I mean, dead man walking, Mike McDaniel. It's a bad division.
It's a bad division.
Like, at least if you fast forward a year, could you see a scenario where like, okay, the Bills are still once again one of the Super Bowl contenders. Miami blew up everything. The Patriots, everybody's fighting because their expectations for stupid reasons were to win 10 or 11 games, and they won 7. And the Jets are kind of just chugging along, trying to build a run first, a tough defense football team that hopes they can win 9 games
changing
and surprise
their
everyone.
culture.
Yeah, and actually like have a real head coach that knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
so.
I like the direction you guys are going in, but we won't keep. I know you're a busy man, living the married life now, so I know you got to probably get running here. But let the people know where you're at, what you got coming up, because I love your content, man. I'm always I'm catching you all the time on all the social medias, and I love what you got going on.
Thanks, man. All the Jet stuff, which definitely the Bills fans watching do not care about, is on Badlands. But if you love fantasy football, I do fantasy football happy hour almost every day at NBC. And if you love the NFL draft, we cover the draft at NFL Stock Exchange on YouTube extensively all year round. We don't take any breaks. We already evaluated all the position groups for summer scouting. So I love jumping on with you guys. I always love, I have a few times run into people that like even downstate, that's a weird thing to say, that are like, oh, I've seen you, like, the guys talking Bills on Cover One. And I'm like, oh, that's nice to see.
You being recognized from us makes me feel great.
It made me feel great because I was like, oh, that's really cool. It's a friendly rivalry. Like the Bills are really good, and it's annoying that the Bills are so good. But I feel very differently about the Dolphins and Patriots. Yeah, very differently.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But I will say, you said it's not great for Bills fans. I will say I don't listen to actually much Bills content during season. I listen like it's Jets week. I'm listening to you guys. I'm listening, and so like if anyone ever wants to know who the pods I listen to for those weeks, I'll let you know. But Connor's, yours is one.
Thanks, man.
And because I think you got to know thy enemy, right?
I agree. That's how I'm actually the same as you. When you're so ingrained in a team, I feel mean almost saying this. I haven't listened to Jets content.
I know what's going on. I pay attention to the Bills.
I haven't listened to Jets content in like 8 to 10 years, unless it's like something very unique. But like you said, I listen to other team content nonstop to kind of get in the weeds of it.
I don't have the time to do what you do for the Jets. So you're keeping me filled in. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, guys. Great seeing you guys.
So good to see you, man. Thanks for your time, and good luck this weekend.
All right, later, boys.
All right, dude. We should jump into, we have a segment probably here to get to for our good friends at Southern Tier Brewing Company. I want to jump in real quick because there was some movement here this week. Colin, we had the official signing of Matt Prater came through here. He's officially signed on the team. And the Bills also now have released Brad Robinson and signed Cameron Johnston to the team here as a punter, who I know Puntalytics, is that the account was high. I couldn't believe that he was out as a street free agent. And then we talked a little offline about the Fedarian Mathis signing, former first round pick coming into Buffalo. I know Eric posted some video about his play. I know I wasn't super in love with him in the draft, but I know a lot of Bills content creators were super high on him as a draft prospect. Now the Bills get to get a sniff at him here, maybe on the practice squad or bringing him in. What do you think about these signings that the Bills made here week 2?
Yeah, well, first with Cameron Johnson, if you haven't heard, he kind of looks like Sean McDermott and Bill Burr.
Yeah, correct.
Literally everywhere I was on Twitter, it was just, oh, they look like Bill Burr and Sean McDermott. The Puntalytics also did not like Brad Robbins. He had the lowest EPA of any punter.
Not a good punter.
Yeah. And that also shouldn't come as much of a surprise, because I think Joe Marino had this circulating when we signed him this offseason that he had the lowest EPA of any punter throughout all of 2023.
Yeah.
And then 2024, he didn't really do much. Now 2025, he's back to being the lowest punter in terms of EPA. So
awesome. Good job, guys.
It's weird that the Bills gave him such a short leash. Maybe with the kicker change, if there's like a holding preference or something, that's the only thing I can think of.
Now's the time to make it, right?
Right. Such a quick change. Obviously, Matt Prater to the active roster. No one should be upset about that after the heroics on Sunday. And you have to think, too, there was probably interest from other teams around the league after what he did in the resume that he has, too, even at 41 years old. The Niners just cut Jake Moody, and the Browns kicker didn't look so hot in week 1. He missed a field goal and an extra point. They ended up losing to the Bengals by 1. Yeah. So there's probably interest around the league.
There's probably some tell to the condition of Bass, too. It seems like this is a lingering thing that there's not a lot of certainty behind, is also a little bit how I'm reading it.
Yeah, well, at the very least, you don't have to worry about rushing him back before he's ready. So from a stability standpoint for special teams, I'm fine with Prater obviously on the active roster. Johnson obviously is another guy that has a good resume and a long career, and the Puntalytics like him. So, hopefully we don't have to see whoever's punting for the Bills too much, but can't be mad about that. And then taking a stab at a former day 2 pick, obviously had a high enough draft pedigree to warrant that. You never know what this Bills coaching staff, especially on the defensive side of the ball, can get out of these guys with some elite traits. So just taking some swings that on the practice squad can't hurt you. We had Lewis Seen a while ago, Fedarian Mathis now. Like, it's just the Bills doing their due diligence.
Yes. I said first round pick, day 2 pick. But also had in for a tryout guy we were talking about offline, Andrew Booth, another guy that I did love in the draft prospect. So this is the thing about Bean, is especially on that bottom half of the roster, he is constantly churning that out. And every single week, we don't even, Greg and I get sort of tired of it. Colin, you'll get used to it. We get sort of tired of like, oh, and they signed this person back and they brought that person back. Like eventually he's just always shuffling that deck. And then it's almost like a Rolodex of like, well, we worked out Booth and maybe we didn't sign him right away, but if one more guy gets hurt, we worked him out and we got that Rolodex and we know where he's at. And so he's doing this all year long. I know some people like to read into a lot of them. Obviously, the kicker and punter are here to play and play right away. But Mathis is probably just another, hey, we get a look at him, get our hands on him. We liked him in the draft, and let's see what we've got a spot for him. The Bills did practice as well today. And in that, they had a couple injuries on the injury report here. We had Taron Johnson, as it did not participate with a quad injury. And Shaq Thompson also suffered a hamstring injury, and he did not participate in practice, or did not practice. Limited was Codrington with a knee, James Cook with a hamstring, Knox with a hip, and Groot with a knee. And then full was Christian Benford with a groin and Keon Coleman with a groin. Those groins, the year of the groins here. And then Sean McDermott did note in the press conference that Trey White was practicing in some capacity. And obviously he didn't show up on the injury report, so he wasn't officially listed as limited. But the way Sean McDermott worded it to me was that maybe there's some limitations, because he kind of said he's practicing in some capacity. So I don't know if that's just walkthrough portions or what he was actually doing, but he did not show up actually on the injury report here. Anything of note here to you? Obviously the Taron Johnson quad would be something here to watch. Any of the other ones?
Yeah, I think another one too is James Cook with the hamstring injury. Obviously we don't know the severity of that, but that's one that can tend to linger. And especially for a guy like James Cook that banks on his explosiveness once he gets to the second level to really have those big breakaway runs that the Bills offense really depended on at times last season, that can really hinder a guy who that's kind of his MO. Yeah. And I know he was in the blue 10 at one point, but he did come back in the game against Baltimore. So you think it's one of those where he's good enough to play through, but just gets treatment through practice each week. But you hope that's one that doesn't linger.
Yes. Well, and I will say here, I don't know, IDK saying Ray Davis running back 1 season, and I know he's probably half joking here, but I want to kind of segue that into a question for you, really on both Taryn and say Cook. Obviously, Cook's limited, so I would think that continues to trend in a positive way. Taryn with the did not practice. That one will probably be one that I'm going to monitor here and see if that improves as the week goes on. But hypothetically, if these say Cooks is kind of staying where it is or not feeling good going into the week and Taryn doesn't move a whole lot off this, is this a game? Like, I know everybody's excited about the Jets and Jets land, even after a loss, they're feeling excited. But I think realistically, these teams are on different spectrums of the NFL in totality. Is this a game where you think Sean McDermott and coaching staff feel comfortable of like, hey, let's give it running back 1 season for Ray Davis and Ty Johnson? We feel comfortable going in with those guys in a game like this, or we feel comfortable with Cam Lewis in that slot. There isn't really a slot threat to us as long as, and maybe we can just play more 3 linebacker sets of Dorian Williams because they're going to run the ball. Like, we feel comfortable maybe going in without these dynamic players that we need for a bigger game. Or am I kind of looking past the Jets a little too much with that?
No, I get what you're saying. I was going to make the same point Jim just did, that Davis started his first game against the Jets last year, and he looked really good, 99 yards.
Really good,
and that one great catch, too, around midfield when Josh rolls out from our own end zone. And between him and Ty Johnson, who also is a former Jet, I think they've both shown you enough individually that they could handle an increased workload, but having the Bills lean on them and not having James Cook at all, I think, in a small game sample size, that wouldn't be the worst thing. But like Connor was saying, with that stout Jets run defense, maybe not the matchup ideally that you'd want to have to deploy that. But on the other side with Taron Johnson, I mean, you heard what Connor was saying too, that it's really just Garrett Wilson and a bunch of other guys. So maybe the Bills feel less pressured to stay in their nickel and we see more Dorian Williams and some base 4-3, or if it is Cam Lewis or maybe Jordan Hancock is active, they feel better about that in those individual matchups because it's going to be a guy like Tyler Johnson in the slot instead of like Zay Flowers for Baltimore.
Yeah. Well, that's what's brewing from our good friends at Southern Tier Brewing Company. I know pumpkin's kind of making its way around here. It is pumpkin seasons. All the flavors are coming. I was at Aldi the other day, and all the good cookies and stuff are starting to come out. I got to grab them for my wife, but I know pumpkin will be on our grocery list here coming up soon. So shout out to our good friends at Southern Tier Brewing Company. And a heads up, we are kind of getting some stuff ready to do a live broadcast from their downtown location, downtown Buffalo. So that should be fun. Do a little meet and greet, do a live pod. Really looking forward to that. So stay tuned for some more information on what days we're going to be doing that. But shout out to our folks at Southern Tier. And I'm going to transition right into our here to help here real quick before we get into our score predictions. Our good friends at William Mattar want you to know that they are here to help. If you're hurt in a car, call William Mattar 444-4444. Colin, the defense didn't look good, and we got to kind of brush past the majority of it this week because of the results. And we were, like Sean McDermott likes to say, we were resulting a little bit this week and brushing past a lot of the concerns that I was really ready to kind of rip into them this week. Those concerns are still there, even though the results came back. As much as I've defended that the Bills do a good job of taking the ball away outside of the luck of turnovers, like I think they do coach it. I think the scheme encourages the ball to find its way into defenders' hands and to find its way out. I think they play a havoc wreaking style of defense. And so you're going to kind of put yourself in those positions a little bit more. I do think I do agree where people get concerned that it will run dry. Like, you can't rely on giving up 40 points, but getting the turnover just when you need it is not a great system of defense to rely on. We heard Ed Oliver say in his press conference today that it gives us another shot at it. And that is really kind of, to me, the story of this game is I do think this is like a Ravens light or a Philly light or a style of offense that gives me concerns in the postseason with mobile quarterback, really good run game, and a defense that can get to you and maybe wreak some havoc. The Jets have been one of the defenses that have probably wreaked the most havoc on Josh, obviously not under this coaching staff, but a lot of that personnel has really given Josh a hard time. So there's a scenario where this team is kind of built in a similar mold as some of the teams that concern me, and they are going to get another shot at it. What are the Bills going to do differently, do you think, in this matchup that's going to change sort of how it looked and how the optics looked of this defense going up against another opportunity. Maybe not as good, obviously not as good as the Ravens. I don't want people to confuse that, but the type of offense that could give them a fit.
Yeah, I mean, you were mentioning the turnovers, which everyone talks about as not being something sustainable year to year that you can count on. But somehow the Bills have been pretty steady with their turnover margins. And you mentioned the Havoc defense. Christian Benford was ranked #1 in Havoc rating among all DBs last year. And you have to assume that's somewhat scheme specific in how he's coached to play. And I do think there is a game plan element to that from the Bills, so that there is some sort of sustainability from year to year. There's two things I keep going back to try and stay optimistic about this defense, which is one, it's week one, right? You're never expecting their best showing at the beginning of the year, especially with the Bills team that typically starts out the year slow, except for that Ken Dorsey year against the Rams and the Titans to start things out. It's been pretty slow games against the Steelers, against the Jets, a slow start against the Cardinals last year before we march back in the second half. And it was a slow start against Baltimore, obviously. And the second thing too is Baltimore probably has the best offense in the league. So they're, expecting to score a lot of points and make some big runs with Henry, and Lamar's going to make the big throws. Now, do you want to give Zay Flowers a career high in receiving yards and let Henry rip off these 40-yard runs and stiff arm you into the turf?
Almost have a career day himself. Yeah.
Yeah. That's obviously not what the Bills are hoping for. And I'm not saying that's excused because it's the Ravens, but I do think just from the standpoint of it not being the Ravens and it being not week one, that will automatically see a bit of a switch flip and the defense start to improve. And then offensively, I think you saw a team that was scared to kind of deploy their full offense in the beginning with a lot of run plays up the middle, lots of conservative calls from Joe Brady, and some screen passes, some short passes by the line of scrimmage. The Jets' safeties, Andre Sisco and Tony Adams, they struggled last week against the Steelers, and that was a unit that people were expecting to struggle going into the year. So I would like to see Joe Brady open up the playbook earlier in the game, take some deep shots, especially now that the chemistry between Josh Allen and Keon Coleman is clearly there. And Josh Palmer, he and Allen were getting on the same page in the fourth quarter too. Carry that part of the offense.
Kincaid was looking
Kincaid
good
down the seam, of course, into the next game and really attack the Jets downfield, which is their biggest weakness on defense.
Yeah, my concern is if you don't come out and defensively look better, like I don't need them to come out and shut the Jets out, but not let them put up 30 plus on you and make it feel like you are requiring that major turnover to get some life in the game, but forcing them to punt a little bit, getting some just normal defensive stops and not allowing it to bleed out or allowing them to go on runs. If the Bills don't come out and stop some of that stuff, I feel like this is going to be something that sort of bleeds into the psyche and the at least the conversation of this defense, and it won't go away all year. I think they have a chance here to put it to bed of like what you just said. We can all then kind of write that off of like, okay, that was week one. Yeah, those things were concerning. But yeah, we can check all these boxes and say, yeah, it's the Ravens week one, yada, yada, yada. If you go out and do that against the Jets again, and we have to watch that same type of thing again, I don't know that we're going to be able to turn that valve off for the year of talking about Bean didn't fix the interior defensive line. The linebackers look old and the safeties suck and there's no one left to trade for. I do think that they're going to answer the call, and it's been very rare. There was like that first year where Sean McDermott went through a real slump with the defense. It was like that New Orleans game. It was right before Tyrod got benched for Peterman. Like there was a huge just slump. They got run all over. We haven't seen it consistently in like back-to-back games pretty steadily. So I do expect them. We heard Sean McDermott talking about he was in that room spending most of his day when Tim Graham had asked him about how he spends his time in his day. He kind of chuckled, but he was like, he did roll up his sleeves a little bit and get in that defensive room. And so I'm expecting, with a little bit more eyes, a little more focus on that defensive side of the ball. And you're not going up against Lamar Jackson. Like as much as I've talked about how cool Justin Fields is, and this story this past week was cool to see him do well, he's not an MVP candidate. And as much as I like Braylon Allen and the running back stable, they're not Derrick Henry, right? And so I do think that they will bounce back here and be a part of this victory that's here to help, outside of just getting the fluky turnover, as everybody likes to say. But all right, let's transition over back. And thank you to our friends at William & Mattar for that segment of Here to Help. Colin, I'm putting you on the spot, dude. We already heard from Connor about what his thoughts on the game. What are you predicting for this game? Sunday, 1:00, Bills Jets. Give it to me. What do you got?
Yeah, I think the run defense might get exposed a little bit early, but then settle in the second half. And as the Bills continue to score, force the Jets to throw the ball more and get away from their MO of running the football. The best run defense is a 2 or 3 possession lead. And so if you have to force the Jets to throw the ball to try and keep up, I think that'll eventually have the defense looking a lot better than it was last week. I'm going to pick the Bills to win 34-24 and start the year 2-0.
That is kind of crazy because I actually also have it 34-24. I have it a 10-point win for the Bills here. And I think it's frustrating. This is going to be a game, Colin, that in my mind, my prediction is it's going to feel frustrating to start. I think you can see like the Jets get the ball first and have a slow, steady drive where it's just like, oh, it's all happening again. They didn't fix anything. All the Twitter's freaking out, wants to fire McDermott. They score. Maybe the Bills start out a little slow, but then at some point, Josh Allen in this offense just explodes. I do think the defense probably creates Fields throwing into something that creates some turnovers. I do think they're going to challenge him to pre and post snap, make some decisions with the ball in his hands if they can stout up and stop some of this run game. So I think it just will play out poorly for them. And all of a sudden they're going to look up at the scoreboard. Buffalo's going to be up by 10 and they're going to be going home. Like, how did this train wreck of Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills kind of happen to us? And I think you're going to see that a lot this year, where the game for the Bills maybe is a little sloppy at times. Maybe they're trying some new stuff at times. This is a different team. We've seen New England start like this year. And I'm not saying they're a dynasty like the New England Patriots, but we've seen Kansas City and these teams that have gone on. And
Cincinnati starts slow every year too.
Yeah.
And some years it costs.
Well, they might not be a good example because they missed the playoffs last year, but we don't want to do that. Yeah. But fair enough. I do think a lot of these teams maybe aren't at their best, and there's not a rush to be at your best yet at this point in the season. But you still have Josh Allen who can just rattle off 3 scores in a row and totally blow your team and your chance of winning a game up. And I think this will be one of those types of games. I think the Bills will have a number of them this year where it's like, hey, the defense didn't look that good. They got the turnover and Josh went ballistic and the Bills walked out with another win that nobody really knows how they did it. This could be one like that.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, like, these run defense concerns aren't necessarily anything new. This is something that Sean McDermott and the Bills defense have been trying to fix for years, but it's just when you have Josh Allen and you can score 30, 40 points a game, that kind of masks some of the run defense deficiencies. But also when you're winning, you got kind of the rose-colored glasses on too.
The run defense stuff though is like, they are a pretty good run defense team. Last year they were, they have a really good stuff rate. Where they get into trouble is a team like the Ravens, where that run threat is both quarterback and running back. And so there's some action that gets involved there. And then when the quarterback is also Lamar Jackson and can throw, I'm sure there are some defenses that are going to stop them and have good days against them, but it's not a lot. Like, we talk about how historically good Josh Allen is. Lamar Jackson had a better statistical season ago than Josh.
No doubt.
And we witnessed it for ourselves in this last game. I felt for a minute when Lamar was 15 yards back and Rousseau has him dead to rights, he gets out of that and he rushes for another 20. That moment was like, oh God, that's what everyone else feels like when Josh Allen's carving them up. There's not a lot of these other guys in the league. And so we can get frustrated that keeps happening to the Bills defense against an offense like this, but he does that to a lot of people. That doesn't mean all the things in Buffalo are bad. And I do think, when they've been called out in the media, this run defense almost always answers the bell. The gap integrity from years ago, I remember that was a big one for years. They were in a rushing slump and everybody was talking about gap integrity. And I think they played they played the Titans and stopped Henry in that game. And everyone was worried. When they really focus on it, they have been able to come out and stop. And I think the Jets are the kind of team where if you can slow that down, they're not the Ravens. They don't have the explosive weapons all over the field, where I think if you can come out and show yourself in the run game, you could really control this game and look even different than the scores we predicted. But all right, Colin, we got to get ourselves out of here for the people. Anything to say to the people here as we close out?
Yeah, just be ready to start the 6-0 division quest on Sunday.
Yeah, that's it, man. Make sure, I don't know if anybody saw, we tweeted out the other day our new t-shirt for this season from Cover One Pass members. If I was more technically sound and had prepared better for this, I would have a graphic of it up here for those watching. I don't, but I will retweet it and I will share it on all social platforms. It's a cool shirt. It's a nerds logo because everybody calls us a bunch of nerds with all your different categories of what makes us nerdy. But if you want it or just want to support us in that kind of way, you can go to cover1.net/1pass, become a member. You get that shirt. You get into our Discord server, which is absolutely fantastic all week long. A lot of times nowadays, Colin, I don't even have to go on social to like get the news of what's happening, especially for the Bills. I'll just go scroll back through Discord and get it and see a really good, cool conversation. So it's a great thing, great way to support us. If you don't want to financially support us, just toss us a like. Tell your friends you like this podcast. I talk to people all the time looking for podcasts, and I was letting them know they can come listen to everybody on the Cover One Network. We've got you covered almost every day of the week. So, Colin, I appreciate you joining me. Your hair looks better than Greg's. I'll tell him that you were ready for this show. So I appreciate you coming on in place of Greg. I hope our predictions turn out right. And everybody will, you'll see all of us on the post-game show, hopefully celebrating a win on a nice early Sunday post-game show edition. So get ready for that immediately following the game. And then obviously like, subscribe everywhere you are, follow all that good stuff. We appreciate you guys coming out, and we are out.